The unseen alien in the busy city streets. An alien girl walked unnoticed among the humans. She had perfected the art of blending in. Her skin shimmered slightly, almost invisible to the human eye. She could move among the crowds without anyone. Giving her a second glance, no one knew who she was. No one saw her. She was invisible, or so she thought. She had come to Earth many years ago. At first, she had been cautious, watching the humans from the shadows. She observed how they interacted with each other, how they spoke, how they laughed, how they fought. Over time, she learned everything there was to know about humans. She knew their languages, their habits, their strengths, and their weaknesses. Yet there was one thing she was certain of. They never saw her. Her species had the ability to blend in with their surroundings. They could become so transparent that no one could detect their presence. It was a survival skill, something her people had evolved over thousands of years. The alien girl used it to her advantage. She was able to explore human cities, witness their conflicts, and gather information without anyone ever noticing her. But today, something felt different. She walked through the crowded market, watching the humans go about their day. The sounds of laughter, shouting, and bargaining filled the air. She slipped past them with ease, but there was a feeling, a strange sensation, that made her uneasy. She couldn't shake the thought that someone had seen her dot. It was a feeling she wasn't used to. The alien girl paused for a moment, her eyes scanning the crowd. There was a man standing near a fruit stall, his back turned to her. He seemed ordinary, just another human in the sea of faces. But as she passed by, she felt his gaze shift toward her. His eyes met hers for a brief moment, and she froze. Impossible. She quickly moved away, blending into the crowd once again. It must have been a coincidence. Maybe he had simply turned around at the wrong moment. But the feeling of being seen lingered. She couldn't ignore it. The alien girl's heart began to race. She had been invisible for so long. How could this human possibly have noticed her? She told herself to calm down. She was trained to stay hidden. No one could see her unless she wanted them to. Her species had mastered the art of invisibility. She had mastered it. So why was this human different? Why had he looked at her like that? The alien girl shook her head and tried to focus. She couldn't let her mind wander. She had come to Earth for a reason, and she couldn't afford to get distracted. The humans were unpredictable, and she needed to keep her distance. But as she continued through the market, her thoughts kept returning to the man. His gaze had been too direct, too knowing. It felt like he saw through her, like he knew exactly who she was. She tried to forget about it and moved on with her day, but it wasn't easy. Every corner she turned, she felt like eyes were on her. She couldn't understand why this one human had broken through her defenses. She had spent so much time perfecting her invisibility. She had never been detected before, so why now? Why? This man? Hours passed and the alien girl found herself in a quiet park. She sat on a bench, trying to relax. She watched the children playing and the dogs running around, feeling a strange sense of longing. She had never experienced this before. Her people never interacted with humans in this way. They were taught to observe, never to engage. But as she watched the humans around her, something stirred inside her. She had always kept her distance, but now she felt drawn to them. She wanted to understand them more, wanted to know what it felt like to be part of their world. Suddenly, she saw him again. The man from the market. He was sitting on a bench, not far from her, looking at a book. She froze, unsure of what to do. The man didn't seem to notice her at first. She had blended in once again, her body becoming almost invisible as she sat motionless. But then, just as before, he turned his head and looked directly at her. His eyes met hers again, and this time she couldn't look away. For a moment, there was nothing but silence between them. The alien girl felt a rush of panic. She wanted to disappear, to vanish into the shadows, but something held her in place. The man smiled, his expression calm and curious. He didn't seem afraid. He didn't seem surprised. He seemed interested. The alien girl's heart raced even faster now. She had always believed she was invisible to humans. No one had ever noticed her, never once questioned her presence. But this man was different. He wasn't afraid of her. He wasn't scared of the unknown. And worst of all, he had seen her. Her mind raced, trying to process what was happening. How could he see her? It wasn't possible. She had trained for years to remain hidden. She had spent so much time mastering this ability, and now this human had broken through her defenses. The man stood up and walked toward her. The alien girl remained motionless, her eyes locked onto his. Was this the moment? Was this the time when everything would change? Would he expose her to the world? But instead of speaking or making any sudden moves, the man simply sat down beside her. He didn't look at her with fear or suspicion. He looked at her with understanding, as if he knew exactly who she was. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice gentle. The alien girl was stunned. This human, who had seen through her, was speaking to her as if nothing was unusual. As if everything was perfectly normal. I thought I was invisible," she whispered, unsure of why she was even speaking. The man smiled warmly. "No one is truly invisible," he said softly. "You just have to learn how to be seen." Suspicion and discovery. The alien girl sat quietly on the bench, her mind racing. The man's words had struck her deeply. No one is truly invisible. He had said. It was a thought she couldn't shake. How could he know? How could he see her when she had made sure no one could? She had lived her life hiding in plain sight, slipping through the cracks, unseen by the humans around her. Yet this one human had broken through her perfect invisibility without even trying. She couldn't stop staring at him. The man was calm, not fearful like the others. He had approached her as if she was just another person. There was no suspicion in his eyes, no fear, just an understanding she couldn't explain. Why hadn't he been scared? Why didn't he run away like everyone else would have if they knew she wasn't human? The man's voice broke through her thoughts. "You've been watching for a long time, haven't you?" His words startled her. She quickly turned her gaze away, hoping he hadn't seen the shock on her face. How did he know? Was she that obvious? She had taken every precaution, every step to blend in perfectly with the humans, yet here he was, speaking to her as if he knew everything about her. She tried to keep her voice steady. "I don't know what you mean." The man raised an eyebrow, but his expression remained kind. "It's all right. I won't tell anyone." His words confused her even more. Why would he keep her secret? She wasn't human. She didn't belong here. But somehow he didn't seem bothered by it. His calm demeanor only added to the mystery of the situation. He wasn't frightened or angry. He was just calm. "I've been watching too," the man continued, his voice low and reassuring. "I know what it's like to feel alone, to be unseen. But that doesn't mean you have to hide forever." The alien girl felt a wave of emotions flood over her. She had always been alone. She had never known what it was like to be seen, to be understood. She had always watched the humans from the shadows, never able to join them, never able to be part of their world. But now, with this one man, everything felt different. He was the first human to ever truly see her, the first to speak to her with kindness instead of fear. She wanted to ask him why he wasn't afraid, why he wasn't running away. But instead, she simply nodded, unsure of how to respond. She had no words to explain how his presence made her feel. She had spent so long hiding, so long running from everything, that now, when someone finally saw her, she didn't know what to do. The man smiled gently. "You've been alone for so long, haven't you?" The alien girl's throat tightened. She wanted to say something, anything, but the words didn't come. She had never admitted to anyone how lonely she felt. She had always kept her emotions hidden, just like her true self. But with this man, everything felt different. He made her feel like maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to be alone anymore. He sat beside her, not touching her, but close enough that she could feel his presence. It was comforting in a way she hadn't expected. The man didn't rush her, didn't try to force her to speak. He just sat with her, as if he understood that she needed time to process everything. And for the first time in a long time, alien girl felt like she wasn't alone in the world. The silence stretched between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was a peaceful quiet, one that allowed her to think and reflect. For the first time in her life, she felt safe. She could sense the trust in the air, the unspoken understanding that they shared. He wasn't asking for anything. He wasn't judging her. He was simply present, offering her a kind of companionship she had never known. Finally, after what felt like hours, the man spoke again. "I don't know how you got here, or what your people are like, but I know you're not alone. Not anymore." His words hit her like a wave. Not alone. The phrase echoed in her mind. Could it be true? Could she really stop hiding? Could she trust this human, someone who knew nothing about her, to accept her for who she truly was? Her instincts screamed at her to leave, to run back to the safety of her invisibility, to remain hidden where she couldn't be hurt. But something inside her held her in place. She wasn't sure if it was the man's words or the feeling of warmth that had spread through her since he had sat down next to her. She wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that she didn't have to hide anymore. But the fear of exposure was overwhelming. The alien girl glanced at the man, her eyes searching his face for any sign of deceit. But there was none. His expression was open, honest, and sincere. There was no fear in his eyes, no anger, just a calm acceptance that made her feel like she had found something she never thought possible. A connection. "I don't understand," she said softly, her voice barely a whisper. "Why are you helping me? You don't even know who I am." The man smiled again, and for the first time, the alien girl saw something in his eyes that was hard to explain. It wasn't pity, it wasn't fear, it was understanding. And perhaps something more compassion. "Sometimes it's not about knowing who someone is," he said. "It's about seeing them for who they really are, even when they don't know it themselves." The alien girl blinked in surprise. His words were simple, but they felt like a revelation. Could it be that she wasn't invisible after all? Could it be that someone truly saw her, not as a stranger, but as something more? Something worthy of being known? The man continued, his voice gentle yet firm. "I see you, and I know you're not alone in this world. You don't have to hide anymore." For the first time in her life, The alien girl felt a spark of hope. Maybe it wasn't too late. Maybe she could stop hiding. Maybe she could find a place in this world. And for the first time, she felt the weight of her isolation begin to lift. The truth behind the human's perception. The alien girl sat silently beside the human, her thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and doubt. Everything she had believed about herself, about her ability to stay hidden, was beginning to crumble. She had always prided herself on being invisible to humans, a skill that had kept her safe for so long. Yet here she was, sitting next to a man who saw her clearly, who had known exactly who she was from the start. The human's calm presence only made her questions grow. Why was he not afraid of her? Why did he see her? And how could he have known that she was not one of them? Not a normal human? The man's voice broke through her thoughts. "I've been watching you for a while," he said, his tone soft and steady. "I could see you the moment you stepped into the city. Your ability to blend in is impressive, but it's not perfect." The alien girl felt a shock run through her. She had always believed that her invisibility was flawless. She could move through the world without anyone noticing her, unseen and untouched. But this human, this one human, had somehow seen through it all. She had never met anyone who could do that. How had he done it? "You could see me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The man nodded. "Yes, but not in the way you think. It's not about seeing you with my eyes. It's about seeing through the veil you put up. I've trained myself to notice things that others miss. It's not magic, it's just focus, attention to detail." The alien girl looked at him, her mind racing. He wasn't claiming to have special powers or abilities. He wasn't a mutant or anything out of the ordinary. He was just a human who had learned to notice the small things, things that the average person wouldn't pay attention to. She had never thought of herself as someone who could be noticed, not in the way this man described. She had always kept herself hidden, blending in with the crowd, making sure that no one could see her. No one could track her movements. It had been a matter of survival for her people. But now, for the first time, she wondered if that was enough. Could she really hide forever? But why? She asked, trying to understand. Why would you even bother to notice someone like me? I'm not like you. I don't belong here. The man paused, his eyes searching her face as though looking for an answer of his own. "Because sometimes the ones who are hidden are the ones worth finding," he said quietly. "I know what it's like to feel invisible, to be ignored by everyone around you. I felt that way too. That's why I noticed you." The alien girl felt a strange emotion stir inside her. She had never allowed herself to feel what it was like to be noticed, to be seen for who she truly was. For so long, she had convinced herself that being invisible was the only way to survive. But now, this human was telling her that maybe there was another way. Maybe she didn't have to hide anymore. "You've been hiding your whole life, haven't you?" The man continued, his voice soft and understanding. "But I think it's time you stopped. The world doesn't have to be a place where you're always looking over your shoulder. You don't have to live in the shadows." The alien girl's heart skipped a beat. She had never let herself imagine such a thing. To live without fear, without constantly having to hide who she was. The idea seemed almost impossible. But this man, this human, was speaking with such conviction, such calm belief that maybe it was possible. "How can you be so sure?" she asked, her voice trembling. "How can you be sure that I'm not dangerous, that I won't hurt you or the others?" The man smiled, a small reassuring smile. Because I can see you, not just your appearance, but who you really are. You're not a threat, you just want to be seen. And that's something I understand. The alien girl felt a wave of warmth spread through her chest. She had never thought of herself as someone worthy of being seen. She had always believed that being hidden was the safest way to survive, the only way to stay alive in a world full of strangers. But now, as she looked at the human, she realized that maybe she had been wrong. Maybe she didn't have to be invisible to be safe. Maybe, just maybe, she could be herself. But how do I stop hiding? She asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. Man looked at her with gentle eyes. It's not something that happens overnight, but you can start small. You can begin by trusting someone. Trusting me if you want. You don't have to carry the burden of loneliness anymore. It's a heavy weight to bear. The alien girl sat quietly, letting his words sink in. Trust. It was a word she had never allowed herself to truly understand. Her people were taught to keep to themselves, to avoid trust, because trust could lead to betrayal. It was safer to stay hidden, safer to watch from the shadows. But now, as she sat beside this human, she felt a strange pull inside her, a desire to believe in his words. Could she trust him? Could she let go of her fear and allow herself to be seen? The man didn't push her. He didn't demand anything from her. He simply waited, allowing her the time she needed. For the first time in her life, the alien girl didn't feel like she had to make a decision right away. She could take her time, process the truth that had been laid out in front of her. She could choose, for once, to step out of the shadows and into the light. Will you help me? She asked, her voice trembling but strong. The man nodded. I will, but only if you want to be helped. It's up to you, but I'm here. The alien girl felt something shift inside her, something that had been locked away for so long. The fear that had held her in place for years began to fade, replaced by a feeling she hadn't experienced in a long time, hope. For the first time, she felt like she had a choice. She wasn't just a shadow, a figure that no one noticed. She was a person, and maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to be invisible anymore. Facing her fears, the alien girl sat on the bench, the world around her seeming both strange and familiar. The man's words echoed in her mind. You don't have to hide anymore. It felt like a dream, something impossible. She had always believed that her invisibility was her only way to survive. Hiding had kept her safe for so long. But now she was faced with something she had never expected, a choice. Could she really stop hiding? Could she trust this human who had seen through her carefully constructed facade? The thought made her heart race with fear. Her people had always told her that showing themselves, trusting others, was dangerous. It could lead to betrayal. 2. Death. So why was she even considering it now? She glanced at the man beside her. His face was calm, patient, and understanding. He wasn't forcing her into anything. He wasn't asking for anything in return. He was just offering a way out of the shadows, offering her a chance at something she had never dared to dream of. Trust. That was what he had said. You don't have to hide anymore. The alien girl wanted to run. Her instincts screamed at her to retreat, to disappear into the safety of the crowd. She had done it countless times before. She had never been caught, but this time felt different. She wasn't just hiding from the humans. She was hiding from herself, hiding from the possibility of a life where she could be seen and accepted. The man's voice broke through her thoughts once more. You don't have to be afraid, he said softly. "I won't hurt you, I promise." She wanted to believe him. She truly did. But the fear inside her was like a heavy weight, holding her down. It wasn't just fear of the humans or the world outside. It was fear of being seen for who she truly was. The alien girl had spent so many years hiding, she wasn't sure who she was anymore. If she revealed herself, if she let go of her fear, what would happen? Would she be accepted? Or would she be rejected, pushed aside like so many others before her? She closed her eyes, trying to calm her racing heart. The wind blew gently, rustling the leaves in the trees above. The sounds of the city felt distant now, almost like they were part of another world. It was just her and the human, sitting in silence. She could feel his presence beside her, a quiet reassurance that made her feel less alone. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "What if I can't do it? What if I can't trust anyone?" The man turned to her, his expression soft and understanding. "It's okay to be scared. I won't push you, but I'm here. You don't have to do this alone." The alien girl took a deep breath. The weight of her fear still pressed on her chest, but there was something else now too, a spark of hope. Maybe she didn't have to be invisible anymore. Maybe she could take a step forward, even if it was just one small step. Her gaze fell to the ground. For so long, she had believed that her invisibility was a gift, a way to keep her safe from the world. But now she wasn't so sure. Hiding had kept her alive, yes, but it had also kept her trapped. She had never truly lived. She had never known what it felt like to connect with another being, to be seen for who she really was. To trust. She looked up at the human once more, his calm eyes meeting hers. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like an outsider. She didn't feel like someone who had to stay hidden, who had to keep her true self buried deep inside. The man had seen her, accepted her without fear or judgment. Maybe it was time for her to do the same, to see herself, to accept herself. "I'm scared," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't know what will happen if I trust you." The man smiled gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to know everything right now. Just take it one step at a time. I'll be here with you." For a long moment, the alien girl remained silent, her thoughts swirling in a storm of fear and uncertainty. But as she sat there, something inside her began to shift. The fear didn't disappear, but it didn't feel so overwhelming anymore. She had been living with fear for so long that she had forgotten what it was like to feel anything else. But now, in this moment, she realized that the fear wasn't the only thing she could hold on to. She could hold on to trust. She could hold on to hope that the human was right. She didn't have to hide anymore. She didn't have to live in the shadows, afraid of being seen. It wasn't going to be easy, and it wasn't going to happen overnight. But for the first time, she felt like it was possible. Maybe she didn't have to carry the weight of isolation anymore. Maybe she could step out into the light. "Okay," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll try." The man's smile widened, and for the first time, the alien girl felt a sense of relief wash over her. It wasn't much, but it was a start. One small step toward the life she had always wanted. One small step toward being seen. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel alone. The man stood up, offering her his hand. "Let's go," he said, his voice warm and inviting. Girl hesitated for a moment, looking at his hand. She could feel the weight of the choice in the air. This was it. This was the moment where everything could change. She could either take his hand or turn away and stay hidden forever. With a deep breath, she reached out and took his hand. The human and the alien girl's hand rested in the human's. A simple connection that felt like it could change everything. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel the weight of isolation pressing down on her. She wasn't invisible anymore. She wasn't alone. They walked together, side by side, through the park where the sounds of children playing and dogs barking filled the air. The alien girl had always watched from the shadows, always kept her distance from the humans. But now, with the human beside her, it felt different. It felt like she belonged. The man walked at a calm pace, never pulling her along, never rushing her. He seemed to understand that this was new for her, that she was stepping into a world she had never truly been a part of before. He didn't force her to speak, didn't push her to explain herself. He just let her walk with him, letting her take the steps at her own pace. As they walked, the alien girl looked around, taking in the sights and sounds of the world she had spent so long hiding from. The city was still as loud as it always had been, full of life and movement. But now, for the first time, it didn't feel like a place she had to hide from. It felt like a place she could be part of. The fear that had once gripped her heart started to loosen. It wasn't gone completely, but it didn't control her anymore. With each step, the weight lifted just a little more. The human beside her had shown her that it was okay to trust, that it was okay to be seen. He had seen her for who she was, not for what she was. And now she was beginning to see herself the same way. They reached a small cafe by the corner of the park. The man stopped and turned to her. "Would you like to sit?" he asked, his voice soft and welcoming. The alien girl hesitated, looking at the cafe with uncertainty. She had never sat in a place like this before, never been part of something so normal. She wasn't sure if she could handle it, if she could truly belong. But she knew that if she wanted to stop hiding, she had to try. So with a deep breath, she nodded. They sat at a small table by the window. The man ordered coffee for himself and something light for her. She didn't know what humans typically drank, but she trusted him to pick something she could enjoy. As they waited, the alien girl couldn't help but feel nervous. She had never interacted with humans this way before. She had always kept herself at a distance, always watched from afar. But now, sitting across from the man, she felt a strange sense of peace. He smiled at her as they waited for their drinks. "It's not easy, is it?" he said. "Being seen." Taking that first step, she looked at him, surprised by his words. "No, it's not. I've spent so long hiding, I don't know how to stop," he nodded. "It's hard. But you're doing it. You're here with me. That's something." The alien girl smiled, a small, uncertain smile. It felt strange, but good. For the first time, she didn't feel like a ghost. She didn't feel like she was slipping through the cracks, unnoticed and unseen. She felt like she had a place in this world, a place where she didn't have to hide. The coffee arrived, and the man took a sip. The alien girl tried hers, and although the taste was strange, it wasn't unpleasant. It was a new experience, and for once, it didn't feel like something she had to hide from. She felt the warmth of the drink in her hands, the warmth of the sun through the cafe window, and the warmth of the man's presence beside her. She was finally part of something, even if it was small and simple. For the next hour, they talked. The alien girl shared bits and pieces of her story, her people, the world she came from. The man listened, never interrupting, always patient. He asked questions, not out of curiosity, but out of a genuine desire to understand. He didn't look at her with fear, didn't treat her as an outsider. He treated her like a person, just like any other dot as the sun began to set, casting a soft golden glow over the city. The alien girl felt a shift inside her. The fear that had once ruled her life, the fear of being exposed, of being rejected, was slowly fading away. It wasn't gone completely, but it didn't control her anymore. She had stepped out of the shadows, and the world didn't feel as dangerous as it once had. The man stood up, offering his hand again. "Ready to take another step?" he asked, his voice gentle. The alien girl looked at him, her heart beating a little faster. She had never been ready for this before. She had never been ready to trust, ready to be seen, ready to be part of something. But now, standing beside the human who had shown her that it was possible, she felt like she was ready. With a deep breath, she took his hand again. "Yes," she said, her voice steady but full of emotion. "I'm ready." They walked out of the cafe and into the street, the world around them still busy, still full of life. But now, the alien girl didn't feel like she was just a ghost, slipping through unnoticed. She felt like she was a part of something bigger. She wasn't invisible anymore. She wasn't alone anymore. She had found someone who saw her, someone who accepted her, someone who was ready to walk beside her. And for the first time, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she could have a future. A future where she didn't have to hide, where she could be herself and be seen. She didn't know what would happen next, but for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid to find out. Together, the human and the alien girl walked into the unknown, side by side. And that was enough.